So recently we've been seeing a resurgence when it comes to beat 'em up games within this genre, especially the retro style one, which I think was always the best sort of style. This was one genre that never really made a proper jump into 3D, but like I said, as of late we've been seeing a lot of retro style 2D ones. We of course have seen Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles come back, we've seen Streets of Rage come back, and both of these games were generally enjoyable experiences that I thoroughly enjoyed playing. I talked about them on the channel. But there's one franchise that I always consider to be the grandfather of the beat 'em up genre. When you're talking about beat 'em up games and your favorite beat 'em up franchises, if this is not in your discussion, I don't really care what you have to say then. And that game is Double Dragon. Double Dragon.
Double the fuck dragon, pussy! Yeah!
Double Dragon is a game that I hold near and dear to my heart. I remember the first time I ever played this game was over at this kid Joe's house. Now, Joe and his sister were babysitting me. I don't know why, I don't know where my parents were, but basically Joe had an NES. And after we got done watching Hook, I remember we watched Hook, and I like that movie. We went into his room and we're playing NES games, and he looks me dead in the eyes and goes, "Yo, son, you haven't played Double Dragon before?" And I was like, "Nah, what is Double Dragon?" And he took out this cartridge, and I was blown away because I'd never really seen a game where it was like fighting and stuff, and you know, like chaos, like you were seeing on the screen, like kneeing people in the face and throwing them around. I didn't know until many years later that Double Dragon was actually an arcade game, and I think it kind of ruined the arcade game for me because I always want to play the NES version or maybe the Master System version. Now, Double Dragon has had its ups. Double Dragon has definitely had its downs, but I've always enjoyed or found some, at least a little bit of enjoyment in most of these games. But now we have a brand new game, Double Dragon Gaiden, and I was very excited for this game, but there were two things that I was very worried about. The first thing, the art style. It looked kind of chibi to me, and I was like, hey, I don't know about this, Chief. And then, of course, was the words that sent a shiver down my spine, because if there's one genre of games that I just never really super get into, it's roguelike games, and there are roguelike elements in a Double Dragon game. Now, how does this all work? Does it work well? And is Double Dragon Gaiden a good game, especially on the Nintendo Switch? Because, well, that's what I got my review copy on. That's what we're going to talk about in this video today. So Double Dragon Gaiden, a gripping narrative, of course. There's gangs in New York. You got to take out these gangs. Everyone's getting out of control here and stuff like that. Marion catches a stray. I guess she was out there doing hood rat things with her friends and stuff. Like, was she an innocent bystander, or was she in the streets doing stuff? Like, you don't know the answer to these questions, but obviously it's not going to be the greatest narrative in the world. It's Double Dragon. It's simply a catalyst for why you are going out there and essentially kicking ass. Now, the first thing you'll notice about this game is the fact that it has co-op in it. Now, there is no online co-op in it right now, but that is coming in a patch, so I won't hold it too much against the game, but really that should have been there on day one. Like, let's be real, people like to play beat 'em up games with friends. You can play in local co-op mode, but what's interesting is if you decide to play it in single player, you actually get access to two characters at the same time. So you could switch these characters out on the fly when your special meter gets full, and I like this. This is actually very cool because you essentially have two lives going on at the same time. You could tag in and out whenever the special meter is full. You can get various abilities that will allow you to regenerate life when you tag out and stuff like that. So very cool stuff. I actually like this a lot, and the character roster is actually pretty deep. Now, most of them are unlockables that you have to get tokens in the game. How do you get tokens in the game? Okay, well, here's how you get tokens. Basically, when you do a playthrough of the game, at the end of it, you can either choose to continue and spend money, or you can cash out your money into tokens. These tokens then can allow you access to a whole myriad of different things, such as unlockable music, unlockable artwork, and of course, unlockable characters. There's a whole bunch of different characters that you can unlock in the game as well, and they all play completely different than other characters. I shouldn't say completely different because you'll see some similarities, but they all feel very different from one another. They all have different sorts of attacks. Speaking of attacks, you have a bunch of different attacks at your disposal. Some of the heavier characters rely more so on grabbing and pounding. There's actually a dedicated grab button in this game. Some of the, like Billy and Jimmy, or Bimmy and Jimmy, you know, they're jumping around, they're throwing kicks and stuff like that. And of course you have different special abilities you can do as well with each individual character. I like all of this. You know, there is a bit of a learning curve when you're first getting into it, because I've noticed as I play through the game that, you know, I get really familiar with Billy and his play style, but whenever I tag someone else in, I don't do nearly as well because I'm not really focused on them like I was focused in on Bimmy. So basically, after you're going through playing the game and you defeat a level, or you defeat a level boss, some of the levels are broken up into longer segments than other levels, but when you beat a level boss, you actually get a little menu where you could take money that you've accumulated and basically use it to buy different power-ups or buy different sorts of things. One time I even got a bunch of tokens that it let me buy, which, if you know the value of tokens, like I just told you, that was a big deal. And I got like 5 tokens for like $1,000, and that was absolutely crazy. That was a great cash out. So where does the roguelike element come into play? Well, it comes into play in a few different ways. After you do your first level, basically the world opens up and you could choose which level you want to go to next. But every level that you choose changes in difficulty. So like the first level is easy, the second level gets a little bit more difficult, so on and so forth. It constantly ramps up. So you kind of got to figure out which level structure. It's almost like a Mega Man thing, but there's not really a dedicated thing to tell you, hey, this is the best way to go for you, because you won't really know until you try some of the levels and see what's more difficult and what's harder in some of the levels for you. It is a bit of trial and error. I could see that being a bit off-putting to some people, but for me, really, I didn't mind it all that much. Like, I thought it was fine. It was a different sort of mechanic than you're used to seeing in these games, and I think it actually sort of extends the replay value a bit, not only because of the insane amount of characters to unlock in the game, but the fact that the levels do feel different as they get harder depending on your choice of the levels. Enemies themselves are bountiful. There's all sorts of enemies. You can do special attacks to beat up a bunch of enemies all at once, and then you'll get some food that you can eat. If you have a full health bar, you can actually turn that into currency as well. There's a lot of stuff in this game. There's a lot of stuff in this game and a lot of pretty good things in there. I really like the gameplay. I do think that there is one problem that I noticed. It's not really a problem, it's just more of a preference. You don't seem to actually explore the levels like a whole lot. You know, like you're in an area and then you're kind of having to defeat all the enemies in that area, and then you move to the next area. I feel like some of the areas drag out a little bit too long. One thing I do like, though, is that when there are sort of things on the level like spikes or something like that, or an enemy throws a TNT stick, that will actually impact the other enemies as well, not just you. So I thought that was a good thing, but sometimes it does feel a little bit too long when you're just sort of sitting there in the areas. But really, the roguelike elements don't really affect me all that much in this game. The continue system is tied into your money and stuff like that, so it's kind of like a risk and reward thing, but I found it fun. You know, it's something that I keep revisiting and trying out different characters, trying out different level paths to see what works best for me. Visually, I was definitely very happy when I actually played the game. You know, when you look at the art style, it's kind of like, that's a little bit, chibi. I'm not the biggest chibi fan in the world. Sorry, Chibi Robo. But no, once you play the game, like, the animations are very, very smooth. Everything comes together well. There's a million, like, dead people. Well, I guess they're not dead. They're technically knocked. I don't know. I'm going to say they're dead. I'm going to say they're dead because this is hardcore stuff. There's dead bodies everywhere, like a Korn song. Dead bodies everywhere. But no, everything just stays on screen, which I think is super cool. There's tons of destructible elements as well that hide things like food or money. The boss battles are all pretty unique as well in terms of their visual styles. The levels all have their own sort of feel to them too. Very cool stuff. Sound-wise, excellent. There is some fantastic ass music in this game. I love the soundtrack of this game. There's like remix Double Dragon songs. There's new original songs. I have not heard a song in this game where I was like, I don't like this song. No, everything is absolutely great. I love the groans and the grunts of beating up people when you have your special attack. Your character will say the name of the move as he does it. or as they do it, because you can play as some female characters as well. But yeah, the music is definitely very standout within this game. So is there anything else that I'm not a huge fan of with the game besides the fact that online co-op should have been there? Some of the levels kind of take too long, and the roguelike elements for me weren't a huge deal, but I could see them potentially, you know, turning off some players. Load times, there's heavy load times in this game, and like I'm not really sure why, but I don't know if this is just the Nintendo Switch version. Like, it doesn't happen very often, but if you get to a loading screen, like, it's gonna take you a while. And I don't know, that's kind of weird to me, because this is obviously a retro inspired game. But if you're a fan of Double Dragon and you're a fan of retro style beat 'em ups, you probably already have this game pre-ordered. I'll have a link to it in the description box down below. Amazon affiliate link, so if you decide to snag it, I'll get a little bit of cash money from it. But I'm definitely digging this game. I definitely think it's a very fun game. It tries to do something a little bit different, you know, and the difficulty can get pretty crazy as you're going up throughout the levels. But I feel like most people who are playing this game like that. You know, they're looking for a sort of an old school experience with a new twist on it. And I think Double Dragon Gaiden definitely nails it when it comes to that. It's not a game for everyone. Some people aren't going to like the art style, but I mean, the combat is just super good and enjoyable. And I really like this game. All the unlockables give it a lot of replay value as well, but got to get that online co-op going, boys. Got to get that online co-op going. Let me know in the comment section down below if you plan on picking up Double Dragon Gaiden. If you follow me on Twitter, you would know that I'm actually doing a giveaway for this game with the developer of this game. So if you follow me on Twitter, you might have gotten it for free. Check out the link in the description box down below, however, though, to purchase your copy via Amazon with my affiliate link, so I'll get some money. Yeah. And as always, thank you guys for checking out this video. If you're new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button, like, comment, and share, hit the bell as well. And as always, I'll catch you guys in the next video. Later.